So first things first, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's great to be here. How are
Well,
you?
very glad to have you. I'm great. Thank you for taking the time. So
Yeah.
before we get into songs on the wire, I'd like to jump back to the beginning. Now, I read
Mhm.
somewhere that at an early age you were given a guitar. Did you ask for it, or was it kind of a random gift?
No, it wasn't a random gift at all. I grew up surrounded by music, and there was this one man who used to play classical guitar at our uh friendly parties that my parents would do at home. And so I was always and he would play all these amazing songs from bands that I would listen to as a kid, like Dire Straits or Pink Floyd and things like that. So the guitar kind of became fascinating to me as a kid, and I think that's what actually dragged me into the idea of playing music. So
Hmm.
so then I started asking my parents for a guitar, and then I think I was around 11 or 10 when I
Okay.
got it. Yeah, so it wasn't random at all.
And so when you got the guitar, what type of player were you? Were you immediately thinking of your own songs and your own things, or were you trying to kind of emulate certain guitar players? Or
Uh, when I first got it, I really wanted to play those songs that I heard him play. That was like
mm,
my main goal. And I remember he taught me Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. And then another friend taught me Come As You Are by Nirvana, which is like the biggest cliche when you're learning guitar. And then from there, it was like these were people that would stumble into my house like once a month. So it wasn't like I got their help every day to learn the guitar.
sure.
So I had really no choice but to try to explore the instrument. And of course, there weren't any of these tutorials like you find today on everywhere. And so it was really like playing guitar and seeing what randomly comes out of that. And then I quickly fell in love with creating melodies. And that was when it became way more interesting to me to just start creating melodies than to play other people's melodies, you know? So,
Right.
and that led to, of course, writing songs like almost immediately after that.
Do you remember the first song that you wrote that you were kind of proud of, that you thought, well, this is actually not too bad?
Yes, I do. And it's fascinating that it's a song that never came out, and it was a song called Into the Sun. But I'm doing these two shows this month, and
Mm,
one of the shows that happens in Belgium is actually from a guy who came across my music through that song
okay.
because someone shot me playing that song and posted it on YouTube, and he randomly came across that song in
Okay.
particular. But yeah, but that was like the first one that I think I could call it a song, you know?
But do you remember what was the mindset? Was it getting thoughts onto paper? Was it kind of figuring out a melody? How did that initial songwriting process go for you?
Uh, it was, it was, first of all, it wasn't something that I was like trying to achieve
Mm,
a professional goal or whatever. It was a very naive thing. It was more about expressing myself, and
mm.
you know, uh, I'm so happy for this. Like I'd say the first 1,000 songs I wrote, no one heard. Because I would write them, and they would all be in my corner, and I wouldn't even show them to anyone. And but it was more like something that you sort of do as your, to me it was literally, this is a very big cliche, but it was therapy in a way,
Mm,
you know, like you go home and you express yourself on the sheet of paper.
right.
And and then that leads to writing a new one, and it becomes an addiction, you know, at some degree.
When it comes to performing live then, because I said you're developing yourself as a musician, and you grew up on an island, so I don't know how many possibilities there are to play live. But what kind of did you envision at that young age of kind of becoming a musician, or was that too far out of your thoughts still?
It became, this is a funny story. Like I started recording demos when I was about 14, I'd say.
Okay.
And then one of these demos, I posted it on MySpace. And MySpace was kind of the big thing
Sure.
back then. So I posted that, and then I started getting some feedback from some people. And when you grew up here, like, just so that people know, I live in an island in the Azores, so this is like mid-Atlantic, and it's a 55,000 island here. So obviously it was not the most encouraging place to even think of becoming a professional musician. But back then I sent a message to this guy who was like a pop star in Portugal at the moment. He was big. He was on MTV when being on MTV was like a
when there was still
big
music on MTV.
Yeah, when it was a statement to be on MTV, you know what I mean? So I sent him a message, and he replied to me, and he was very kind. And I said, "Hey, can you listen to my music? I would really love your feedback on it, and if you could say something that I could do to improve it, that would be amazing." So here I am, 16, and this guy writes me back saying he loves my songs and that he would like for us to meet. And so I flew to Lisbon for a weekend, and I remember standing at a table with him, and then I didn't know this was going to happen, but another big band, very popular band from Portugal, was at the table, and he was sort of in a conference, and all these magazines and TVs coming over, and I was there dealing with those people all of a sudden, completely relocated from this reality. And so once I got home from those 3 days, I was like, I don't care what you people say, this thing is possible. And so I started, so that was kind of a trigger for me. I think that was the trigger to understand that, sometimes that world isn't that far away. It's just a question of networking and talking and meeting people. And I guess that's the point where I actually started thinking about doing music professionally.
Okay.
And I went to Lisbon then at 18 to study in a fine arts school.
Okay.
That didn't last, and then I embraced music. Yeah.
Was there, very quickly in between, just a thought popped into my head, was there ever a thought of singing mostly in Portuguese, or were you always kind of writing in English and thinking in English?
No, it was pretty much English because I grew up listening to, Dylan or Dire Straits or Mark Knopfler or Pink Floyd, all Supertramp, all those bands were kind of like the foundation in my attachment to music. And so English it's weird because you communicate in another language throughout your day.
Right.
But then it feels like music is this other world where that language is so connected to.
Because am I right in saying that for you the lyrics are also very important? You mentioned somebody like Bob Dylan, who obviously had a big emphasis on lyrics. So was that always a driving force in the music that you make?
At first, I was more driven through melody, and then as I became as my taste started growing and I started developing my own record collection, I became more and more and more interested in songwriting itself and the craft of lyrics, and yeah, so lyrics came later, but these days lyrics are a very strong part of what I do and something that I really like. I cannot listen to a song if I don't like its lyrics. That's yeah.
If we take then the latest album, Songs on a Wire, is there one song, and this is maybe I don't know, annoying to say about your own songs, but is there one line or a bit of lyric that you were really happy with or really proud of that the way it turned out?
On this one, I am very, very happy with all the lyrics on the record, because we did spend a lot of time on that. And Ferris Wheel is a song that I really like and that I'm really proud of. In a particular moment of the lyrics, that's a hard one, man, because I now have to think of all the lyric. But
well, I wrote a little bit down from that song. I can read it to you, because that's an interesting line, I think, and it also kind of reveals what the song is about a little bit. So what am I to say if your skies are always gray?
Yeah.
I wrote that lyric down from that song.
Yeah. So this song is kind of about when you're when you're with someone who's got a, you know, when you deal with someone with depression and you really are trying to help that person, but that person doesn't want to be helped. And we've all seen cases of people who end up in the exact same place as the people that they are trying to help, because they don't come to a point where they say, yeah, I've done enough, man. If this is a situation that if you don't want to change it, I can change it for you. And this song is sort of about having the strength to sometimes prefer your own mental health when you need to.
Right.
So it's kind of, you know, and it's a delicate subject, and I was very you know, it's something that you have to approach very cautiously, because you don't want to be that mistaken to be that information to be mistaken.
Sure.
Because this depression is a real thing, and you should really try to help people who are dealing with that. So yeah, but that song is about that.
But that's an interesting thing, because as a songwriter, obviously, well, not obviously, but I would think in most cases you draw at least a little bit from your own life and from real things that you experience. Yeah. So when you're writing about real people, is that difficult? Is that difficult to? I don't know if the person that inspired this song kind of has heard it, for instance, but is that a tricky thing when you write about love or whatever, and there's real people involved?
I don't like to like say, oh, this song is about that person or that person or whatever. In particular, of course, when you write about stuff, and for me at least, it has to be slightly personal. So at least personal, it might be something that you're not going through, but someone close enough to you is, and that is strong enough for you to want to write about it. But I always try to approach songwriting in a way, you know, the Ray LaMontagne once said something that I find super cool, which is like, if a magician, if a songwriter tells you what a song is about, it's the same thing as a magician telling you how he does a trick. Because songs do have this magic of every listener picturing its own story behind the lyrics.
Sure.
So I like to approach songs in a way that doesn't kill that. That's kind of also a goal when songwriting.
Do you have images in your mind then as you write these things, or are there certain certain songs connected to certain kind of visual things as well?
Yes, I've always had, when writing, I always picture things, and that's actually something that when I first started like trying to have music videos, it was very confusing to me how you would go with the set of lyrics to a director, and then he would represent what you write in a very different way. And you're like, oh, but this is not what I meant. You know, you have to really disconnect and allow the visual part to be, unless you're like 100% control freak. But it's also funny that people take a certain song and fit it into their lives. It's part of the magic, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, but because that makes it interesting as well. If you hear from people either through social media or after your show or whatever, when they tell you their interpretations of what the song is about, what have there been really crazy ones, or have there been really interesting ones that made you think?
Yeah, definitely. There's one that's very funny. Like the first time I visited Amsterdam, I was, you know, when you're not from the Netherlands, what you hear about Amsterdam is, of course, like the city of sin. It's where everyone smokes weed. It's all those cliches, and there's this other side of Amsterdam that I find absolutely beautiful. That is very, you know, skipped. It's skipped a bit. Like when I walked into the city, I felt like it was a very romantic city, like a very you can feel all these different cultures. There's this sense of freedom. There's a lot of things that people don't usually speak about, and that I felt, and that made me completely fall in love with the city. And I wrote this song, and I called it Red Lights. and we were going to do a duet with a friend who's actually from there, and her interpretation of the lyrics when she was going to sing, she thought the song was about this guy who had fallen in love with a prostitute from the red light,
Right.
which I thought was hilarious because the song had nothing to do with that. And then I read the song, I read the lyrics thinking of what she said, and it was like a perfect fit. So that was just like one example of how lyrics can be, uh they can come to the other side in a very different story.
But like you mentioned, I think that's the beauty of music as well, that people can find different things in different songs and then apply it to their own lives. So very quickly in between then, whenever times are tough, who are the musicians you turn to? Is there a song or a certain artist that you really like to listen to in certain moments?
It's kind of a rotating thing, but these days I've been listening to, I think we are living in a golden era of singer-songwriter
Mm,
material. I think there are guys out there. I listen to a lot of His Golden Messenger, uh
right.
Jason Isbell, uh Leif Volbeck,
Mm, right.
uh, of course Bon Iver, Gregory Jan Isakov, I have, the list is huge. Like I could, but these are Nathaniel Rateliff is a big one for
Sure.
me at the moment. And then of course the old classics like Springsteen or Dylan or Dave Van Ronk is also someone that I really
Mm.
dig. Yeah, it's a big list.
But you mentioned a lot of songwriters, like Dave Van Ronk. He's somebody who inspired Bob Dylan, and then Bob Dylan inspired
Yeah, yeah,
Bruce
yeah, yeah.
Springsteen, and so you have this whole tree. So in that sense, what do you try to? And this is too formal, I suppose. But what are you trying to accomplish as a songwriter? Do you have certain? Um, how should I put this? Are you looking for the perfect song? What is it that you're trying to get out of these songs?
Oh, I like I it's not, first of all, I'm trying to express myself. And then of course I look up to all these people that I
Mm,
just mentioned. And what I try to achieve with my own songs is first of all, I'd like them to be based on truth
mm,
and something that other people can relate to. And then I guess my ultimate goal as a songwriter would be to leave behind a strong collection of songs that I'm proud of. I'd say that's like because all the rest you cannot control. You
sure.
you you never know um, which song is going to resonate with people. There are songs that you love that people don't
Mm.
resonate with, and then there are songs that you write so fast, and then all of a sudden you can see people reacting to them. So in the end, the only thing you can control is how much of yourself you've put into these songs, and that's kind of my goal, is to just write songs that I'm proud of. That's all.
Sounds good. One last question then, because you mentioned something that I always find interesting is the songs that an artist write that perhaps in their eyes doesn't get enough attention or so which song it's a little bit of a fair question, but if we take Songs on the Wire, which song on the album do you think deserves a little bit more attention?
Oh man, it's a little early for that, but let me see.
Or
You know,
at least when you wrote it, where you thought, okay, this is really cool, and it hasn't kind of or maybe it
um,
will.
yeah, like for instance, I love the song Luna,
Okay.
which is not a single. It's like a typical album track.
Mm,
Um, and it's usually the songs that are in singles, immediately you know that they are not going to get the attention that you'd
mm.
like them to get. So yeah, that song to me is kind of a staple in this album, like that song and Away We Go. I really like these two songs, and both of them were not singles. Um, so yeah, those are two examples of
But
that, I think.
let's take Luna then very quickly. What is it about that song? Do you remember writing that, and what was the spark for that song?
Luna, yeah, the spark for that song is funny because now you hear the song and you won't think of it. But you know the Twin Peaks theme song?
Yeah, I
Do,
think
do,
so.
do, 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 do,
Yeah.
do. Yeah. So I've always sometimes, to me, as someone who writes songs, I'll listen to a song and I'll think, I'd like to have something like that someday. And so you sort of approach songwriting thinking of writing a song within that family or that
Mm,
category. And Luna was sort of that to me, like a mysterious song that and even the title Luna, that's that atmospherical thing that this song has, the original, the one that I'm talking about. It was
mm,
kind of the trigger to start writing it. And then the lyrics talk about these two people who are sort of very connected and attracted to each other, but they never seem to find their way together. And it's a correlation between that relationship and the relationship between Earth and Moon,
mm.
which are kind of always one is spinning around the other, but they never get to get together. So
Right.
yes, and then that one is a song that Tim Hart, who produced the record, co-wrote
Yes.
the lyrics with me. And he's such a brilliant lyricist. And he was kind of yeah, he was a huge inspiration for me when writing this record.
Okay.
And his input on stuff was amazing. And so there were some co-writes on the record with him as well. Luna was one of it, Lifeline, Ferris Wheel.
Okay.
And these songs in particular, I'm very happy with.
Can I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. I believe you're playing in Utrecht in a week's time or so, and
Yeah. Yes, I will be performing at Club 9 in Tivoli Vredenburg in Utrecht.
mhm.
And the next day I'm off to Balen to play Balen in Belgium to play Weezer Cafe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, best of luck with the shows and everything. Yeah, can't wait to see what you come up with next.
Thank you so much, man. It's been amazing.